Hello, and welcome to our video contemplation of day signature 52. This frequency corresponds to the Eight of Wands, the prime instinct to embody, and the wand virtue of synergy. It is represented by the angels of promise and gravity.
Wow. Yeah, so we have the 30th angel of promise, who walks the pathway of desire to become the embodiment of purpose. We also have the 52nd angel of gravity, who walks the pathway of repose to become the embodiment of the Almighty.
Every day.
This is a really exciting one because I think for a lot of people who might be in this place where they're tired, they're exhausted, they've hit a wall, this is going to be a mind-blowing contemplation, because it really is. If you are in that place, it means you're onto something really big, and this is a conversation for you to tune into, because what we're going to talk about is going to completely take what is the norm in society of what we think we should be doing and completely flip it on its head.
Yeah. We found this to be true for ourselves. And what Laura's describing is the most practical discovery perhaps we've made.
Yeah, I mean, at this point in the sequence, we've been moving through the sequence. This is one of those, points in life where we feel like we're not making any progress, but it's exactly like that indicator that magic is happening.
Absolutely.
It's really exciting to be on the other side of that, to witness what that was all leading to.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes sense that we would arrive at this moment so far into the sequence that we've met in the wands. A lot has happened, and it's all culminating to something, to many things.
Yes.
And so this is going to introduce us to a posture that permits the remainder of this journey to unfold. It can be easy, I think, along the way to get into this mindset that we are doing something.
Because it's the wands.
Yeah, because it's the wands. It's active. It's engaged. We are involved. We are participating. So in this regard, we're doing something in that we are actively engaged. But that doing is a very different quality of doing than what we've been raised up into, especially in this Western society. It's not about expending our effort. It's not about exploiting anything around us. It's about moving with something and being carried by something, so that most of the action is really about aligning with a movement that's already very alive. So we're going to meet this again today, but really coming at it from what to us has felt like a very new angle, because as Laura already mentioned, it turns a lot of our previous ideas and strategies right on their head. You kind of feel like you're upside down in pretty real ways.
Yeah, absolutely. You can feel almost like nothing is happening.
Yeah, when in fact everything is happening. It's just that you've released the need to control or attempt to control all of those countless details. So we're very excited about what we get to share today. I feel the gravity of the day. I feel the significance of this moment. And where oftentimes I personally feel like a jittery excitement to share, today it's like, okay, we want to slow down, come down, and really, with as much care as we can embody, bring this lesson forward. Because this lesson for us has been embodied. It's something we've been living now for a great length of time. It's something we have proven out. And as large and even unbelievable as it may seem at certain points, all we can tell you right now at the outset is that it works. It's a real thing. So we're excited to share that. Let's start at the beginning. Let's do what we always do, and maybe begin with the keynotes that we have shared, that we're excited to share for the 8. Right? So the 8 of Wands. 2 primary keynotes. We've decided even just this morning to essentially dedicate one of them to the angel of the day.
Yeah, it's true.
So the 2 keynotes are
gravity and goodness.
gravity and goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, the word good itself is the frequency of 8. It's a perfect match to the frequency of 8, as is the word God.
Mm-hmm.
And so our secondary keynotes, our descriptors for this, the energy of the 8, regardless of its placement, would be love, power, God. What else? Symbiosis, infinity, and command.
And authority.
And authority, yeah. So really big words here in the 8. Traditional connections would include prosperity and abundance.
Mm-hmm.
You get this largeness, this expansive quality inherent to the 8 because it's the literal symbol of infinity. Mm-hmm. It is large. But our keynotes of gravity and goodness, we really enjoy the way they feel. So those are the ones we're running with. They're the ones that we've sensed in each of the 8s we've worked with. So those are the keynotes of the day on the subject of the 8 itself. And we want to move from that into just the memory of the fact that we're in the ones. This is a vigorous, vital energy. So mm-hmm. whatever goodness there is alive, is moving, and it's attempting to deliver itself to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the sense of gravity, really, like, we're going to have a lot of fun with this. There's so much density here, but even that has a purpose. Even that has an action, but it might look very different than you expect.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to learn about what that is today.
Yeah.
Okay. The prime instinct to embody, mm-hmm. pretty straightforward. This is not something we want to consider intellectually. It's something we want to bring down into our experience. We want to see what it feels like. We want to consider for ourselves whether it plugs into our real life in meaningful ways.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that leads us to, if I haven't, synergy, right?
Yes.
Very excited to talk about synergy.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start there before we jump into the angels.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, ladies first. You go.
Well, synergy is a really interesting word that we can learn a lot about when we break it down. So we actually wanted to find out what the meaning of the word is when we look at the prefix, like what sin means as a prefix, and then also what the suffix means of ergi. And when you put them together, what does it mean when you combine them? Because this word, we will really understand what is happening here when we understand this word of synergy.
Mm-hmm.
So the word itself is actually the interaction of two or more agents or forces so that their combined effect is greater than the sum of their individual effects. So greater than the sum of their parts.
That's what the word synergy means.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have this cooperation between various forces occurring here.
Which then establishes a third force, so to speak, which is greater than the sum of its parts,
mm-hmm.
while still including those parts.
Right.
That's synergy.
Yeah, it's an extremely efficient way to get anything done, essentially, is what we're talking about.
Cooperation tends to be very efficient.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yes, very good.
Right. So when we broke that word down, the prefix sin indicates that collaboration or joint action or partnership. And then ergi is actually, it's exactly like it sounds. So it either means work or energy. It often implies a sense of exertion or action, which is really perfect for the ones that
mm-hmm.
we're in this space of action moving. But we're talking about something that is super efficient
mm-hmm.
because of the joint collaboration that's happening here.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think what we should talk about next is who is this other, like, who are we collaborating with, essentially?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
Mm-hmm.
It leads us into the angels.
Yes.
I could not help but laugh after yesterday really being so hyper-focused on this theme of desire to find it waiting again today.
Yeah.
If you think you're going to get away from the significance of desire as a motive force, as a fueling factor in your experience, you're not going to get away from it. Mm-hmm. And the angel of promise shows up today, walking the pathway of desire, to remind us that while we may not spend as much time talking about that subject today, since we've been talking about it so prolifically over the past several days, it's here, and it is an absolutely vital component to the conversation. None of the other pieces we're going to explore make any sense void of this primary context. This is where it all begins, and this is the driving force that moves it all along the course that we're going to discover in this conversation. So once again, the angel of promise is here. In the case, like this one, where an angel we've met with is present in the day signature, again, we recognize it as an invitation to go and study that session. This is the 9th session out of 10 that we've held up until this point. Remains one of our all-time favorites. We've been in and out of it now for several days, and you can read the same line multiple times a day, and it hits different every time. Please do yourself a favor and read that. If you already have, read it again. And if you haven't, what in the world are you waiting for? It's ready and waiting on the website, completely free of charge. Play with that angel of promise, bring it into the conversation of this day, and see what it has to show you. Because inherent to that is its embodiment, which is purpose.
Right.
And on a day like this, where the prime instinct is to embody, realize that the whole point of all of this is to relax into your purpose. The angels have taught us what that means. The purpose of life is enjoyment. It cannot get simpler than that. So over and over again, we'll return to this same subject and the same exact lesson on that subject. We could harp on it every single day and love to. In this case, we can't help but be a little mind blown by the other angel that works with the angel of promise. And that's where a lot of our ideas today are coming from, right?
Yeah.
So the angel of gravity,
Yes.
walking the pathway of repose,
Which is one of our favorite words of all time.
that's exactly where I want to start, to become the embodiment of the Almighty. You get a sense for the scale of what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
A scale which really transcends, I think, a lot of our comfort zones.
Yeah, absolutely. It actually took us quite a bit of time to discover the embodiment for this angel because it is so grand.
Both the pathway and the embodiment came as absolute surprises after a great length of time of searching for these words. I'd like to actually share that story, but let's first kind of share the playful relationship we have with the idea of repose.
Yeah, well, one of our favorite activities we like to call regal repose.
Yeah, that's our favorite activity. I love it.
It's lounging, enjoying a luxurious environment, our favorite luxurious beverage, which might be a glass of wine,
Or a nice glass of scotch.
Is definitely one of our other favorites. And yeah, just completely with your feet kicked up, be in repose, be in relaxation, reclining, and
Witnessing, enjoying.
Yeah, let it all go. Just talking, observing. It is a far more productive activity than you can imagine.
Well, it's like, well, what are you doing in regal repose? We are relaxing.
Yeah.
Do you realize that to relax is a very active decision? It's a part of the movement.
It's one of the prime instincts even.
It is.
So it is an integral part of life.
If you are alone, living in a vacuum, and nothing outside of you exists, and you just sit still, you might be able to qualify that stillness as laziness. You're not doing anything. But you're not alone. You do not live in a vacuum. And based on everything else we've learned, think of everything we've mentioned up until this point in this conversation alone, you are in direct relationship with motive power, with a living movement which flows. So when you relax, you may not be doing anything in the ways that you've been told that you should, but you are in fact moving. You are being carried along on this stream of greater activity. You're surrendering yourself to something greater than you. So when you choose to relax, absolutely that is active, because it is a conscious decision to lean into a larger movement. And by larger, we mean larger than your ideas about what you should be doing or you're supposed to be doing, larger than your strategies or expectations. There's something happening, and when you relax, you allow it to happen. Mm-hmm. So in a way, there's no more productive action than relaxation, mm-hmm. which is why relaxation is another angel pathway. Mm-hmm. So repose is very much about this. It's about kicking back and realizing that the kingdom is yours, and all the different functions and demands of that kingdom are being handled by others. Mm-hmm. Just like if you were a king or a queen, you would have all of these different tiers of support, ensuring that the kingdom remains like fluid, mm-hmm. Like in good standing. Mm-hmm. You're not running around vacuuming the castle. Right. These things are being handled for you. The same thing plays out here when we move into this moment of repose. When we submit ourselves to this pathway of repose, what we're doing is communicating our trust in the intelligence and the activity of the universe. Mm-hmm. That's what we're doing.
Yes.
So from the outside, it may look like we're sitting in a fold-out chair watching a bunch of squirrels while sipping on, a tequila.
Yeah.
But what's actually happening is something extremely conscious as we permit ourselves to simply enjoy the world we live in. Mm-hmm. That's the other part of the action in repose is you're engaged. You're sitting still, but you're fully engaged. You're in conversation, even if you never open your mouth. You're in a dialogue with the flow of life all around you, and you exist in this state of wonder over all the little details. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes those little details, so to speak, are the very ones you would miss if you were buzzing around trying to get things done, trying to be productive, so to speak. Right. So you give yourself the space to relax and to open. Mm-hmm. When we do that, we receive. That's what we've been told over and over again.
Yeah. I mean, if you feel like relaxing, that is your clue, your message from the universe that it's time to relax. If you actually feel moved by life to get up and do something because you can't help but you're moved by this genuine desire to do, then that is also your message from the universe that it's time to do. Mm-hmm. But if we're not paying attention to these like really nuanced sort of messages, then we're wasting our energy. Yeah. The universe is it's so efficient when it comes to this sort of thing. Everything is choreographed perfectly mm-hmm. for us.
Yep.
So it is definitely an integral part of the process to know when to be in repose.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a quality of repose, a quality of relaxation that follows through even into whichever activities you are inspired to engage in. The fact of the matter is, nothing productive ultimately happens in a sustainable manner when you are tense. Mm-hmm. That energy is not necessarily being wasted so much as diffused. It just vaporizes. It's no one's fault. It's just that a vital energy is being offered in a direction that it really has no business moving in. Mm-hmm. It hasn't been authentically called into that direction, and so it just dissipates.
Yeah.
Right? There's no loss of energy. It's just that you don't have anything more to give in that direction, right? What we're describing here is basically a process of regathering your energy back to a personal center and then waiting, trusting, feeling into its authentic movement so that whether it's sitting still or recording a video or preparing a meal or going for a walk or whatever it may be, building a website, it comes from someplace deeper within you that is capable of sustaining that energy, that movement, that flow. This is not the way we're used to thinking about work. Mm-hmm. But work, by definition, is energy expenditure. And when we're dealing in these terms, it's really a question of efficient or not.
Yeah.
Is it an efficient use of energy or is it not an efficient use of energy? This is a non-critical, non-judgmental distinction. One of them is efficient and one of them isn't. It doesn't make one good and one bad. but it does make one more productive and more sustainable than the other. Obviously, we all want what is most productive and what is most sustainable. And so in this context, we would consider that to be better because it's what we deserve, right? So that's kind of the distinction we're drawing here. That's how repose connects to it. I think it is important to imagine for yourselves what that might look like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even if you're not ready to actively design a way of life built on that foundation like we have, consider what it might look like. We watched this movie, like a documentary a week or two ago. It's called Score. There was some subtitle connected to that. I think if you look up Score on Google, you get a different movie.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do Score, the documentary or something,
right.
I'm sure you'll find it.
It's about film score soundtracks.
Yes. Right. So one thing we found really cool in this documentary was the fact that when like an auditorium full of musicians is showing up to record a soundtrack for a movie, oftentimes they are totally unaware of what they're going to play. They've never seen that score before that very moment. So they pull out their instrument and they play note for note a piece of music that they've never heard until that very moment that they're playing it, mm-hmm. which is really wild to consider. There's no precedent for what they're doing. Mm-hmm. They're having a sight read that quickly in the moment by moment. Talk about nuance, talk about movement. They're having a sight read these notes, and as they're doing this, their ears are taking in the experience of those notes, the experience of that music. I can't even imagine how shaky and exciting, but also kind of terrifying that would be on the one hand, and how profoundly touching that would be on the other in those cases where you're dealing with a composer like Hans Zimmer or something, and you've got this massive piece of music that's filling this auditorium, and you're surrounded by mics, and the conductor is going crazy, and it's this storm of just music mm-hmm. that is filling the room and you. That blew our minds that it would be possible to be that equipped to meet that moment note for note so directly, so precisely, so perfectly that this magic is produced as a result, and that not you alone, but every other person in the room, everyone's pulling their own weight. Everyone is a professional. This is what we're finding here. That's what Lara was describing. That's what I'm inviting you to consider. What would it look like for you to slow down enough to relax into that part of you that is, in fact, a professional musician, so to speak, feel your way forward note by note without any need to know what the total score looks like, because you absolutely know that if you will keep playing, it will happen. Mm-hmm. And everyone around you, all these different supporting pieces of that puzzle, they're all playing along, and everyone's reading the same music. And when we talk about orchestration, this is what it looks like. So when you get to that crescendo and you get to those just heart-rending pieces, you didn't even know they existed, and now you're the one responding to them. It's like, oh my, this is something. That example is equal to what we are being called to surrender to in life. Mm-hmm. It makes for a delicious, fascinating, sometimes terrifying, but always enriching, always fulfilling experience as we are filled and surrounded by, mm-hmm. filled with and surrounded by music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I have always heard like, oh, each one of us is a member of the whole cosmos. We all have a part to play. And this is actually like the first time where I understand what that means. We do actually have mm-hmm. a very specific part to play. And up until this moment, you're actually too busy trying to do everybody else's parts at the same time as you do your own, because you're unaware that there are others actually actively collaborating with you mm-hmm. so that you can just focus on your part. And it's very simple to really understand how, like, how little you have to do and how easy it is to know what that part is. But it is all in like your desire, your enjoyment. That is the thing that you're here to do. That's what is here to guide you to know what you're supposed to be doing in any given moment.
Yeah. You are a professional violinist.
Mm-hmm.
That's your proficiency. If you read those notes for your part, they will play themselves through your proficiency. That's what you do. It's what you're built to do. But if you're, skipping around the room, making sure that the flutist is ready to go and that the guy with the cymbals in the back has his, everything ready, and your violin never leaves its case, and the quality of the overall experience will be diminished as a result of that.
Mm-hmm.
It cracks me up because I saw this reel. I didn't even tell you about this reel on Instagram the other day, and the heading was something like "Mastering the Art of Looking Busy."
Yeah.
And it was these three guys loading a truck, and they were all like a stack of big boxes that needed to go on this truck. And two of the guys they'd pick up a box, they'd carry it to the truck. They'd come back, they'd pick up a box and carry it to the truck. The third guy, hilarious, this like little Mexican dude with a cowboy hat on, and he was just running back and forth. As the one guy would come up to get a box, he'd run up to the box and pretend like he was gonna help, but then he wouldn't. And then the other guy, and he'd kind of shuffle him, and then the other guy would come and he'd run over there, and he was literally just doing nothing the entire time, but he was zipping around so fast, looking so busy, he never picked up a single box.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point he stops and he pours himself a drink of water, and he's like, and it's just the funniest thing.
Wow.
And I can't help but see us in that same role. We are so concerned about whether everyone's got all the different pieces of sheet music and whether everyone's cases are open and whether the instruments are tuned. And that's not our job.
Mm-hmm.
Our job is to make sure our instrument is in tune and to make sure that our music is laid out and to make sure that we know how to read from one note to the next.
Mm-hmm.
But if we haven't been taught how to interpret life signals, it means we don't know how to read music.
Yeah.
And if we haven't been told that we are in fact professional violinists, we have no way of considering what it might mean to pick up a violin and start playing.
Mm-hmm.
It could be that it's a part of you, and that's that the moment you do pick it up, it starts playing itself. But if you don't know that, why would you ever pick it up to begin with? So we've been led astray, literally led astray through all of these ideas, all of these opinions, all of these expectations that have had nothing whatsoever to do with the underlying truth of who we are. And so we've gotten as busy as we possibly can, attempting to fulfill a role that we have no business attempting to fulfill. And we end up looking like this goofy guy, zipping around, looking busy, but actually producing nothing of value as a result of the fact that we're not doing our part.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to do all these other parts, and of course failing at that because we aren't the flutist.
Yeah.
We aren't these other things. We're this one thing. I am a Timothy.
Mm-hmm.
Laura is a Laura, and you are a you.
So yeah, I feel like the prerequisite to this would be the 49th angel of resonance, because that actually is the conversation, the session that we've had where we're taught how to read that sheet music, so to speak.
Yeah, the angel of resonance is an awesome session, and the ultimate prerequisite is the forgotten sense.
Yes.
We say this every few conversations because it's that significant.
Right.
The prerequisite is learning how to read sheet music, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Before that is knowing that you are a violinist. You are large. You are an original, and you are meant to be you. That's the first piece. By now, hopefully, you're starting to get that piece. But if you haven't experienced the forgotten sense, you have no way of interpreting the music.
Mm-hmm.
You need that. Everyone needs that. So there are certain prerequisites in place, but I think we can all relate to the idea. We know what it's like to spend all of that energy under the best of intentions. I remember even watching this reel and thinking, I don't think this guy is acting. Like, I don't think he's faking or trying to look busy. I think he is trying to help, but this is the best he's come up with.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it felt sincere is what I mean. And we are equally sincere.
Yeah, absolutely.
All of us are, until we realize that we're supposed to open that case and put our hands on that violin and then hear the music for ourselves. it never happens. So we're being called to that, to our specific story.
Yes.
This is the angel of gravity on the pathway of repose to become the embodiment of the Almighty. So we need to look at gravity. What does it mean?
Yeah.
We could go on about repose because we've literally built our life around repose. Gravity, though.
Yeah.
What is meant by the angel of gravity? You want to jump in, or?
I'm just wondering when we're going to read that.
I think that's next up.
That is next.
For starters, we can say that the word gravity is referring to the idea of gravitas. You feel a sense of gravity when you arrive at a subject like today's, where it's like, oh my, there is something here and it is something big. Gravity inspires a certain inner silence as you open to listen and to receive whatever that very significant thing is. Profundity, the profound nature of something, that's gravity. When you meet someone who has gravity in their presence, it catches your breath. You're like, what's happening here? You know, you're taken aback by the magnitude of its impact, but it's totally subtle. It's like it stops you dead in your tracks and you have to pay attention. The angel of gravity is like this. Keep in mind that each of these angels is a core expression within you, which means that there is some part of you that carries this exact same signature into life, provided you permit that. So there is a version of you that is so large, so profound, so significant that it stops other people dead in their tracks in such a way that they have to watch what's happening here. They have to learn more about this presence, which is you. You may or may not have ever experienced that in your life. You may not have met anyone with a presence of gravity. You may not have felt that you ever exhibited that for yourself. It doesn't matter. The promise is that it's a part of you and that it wishes to express through you. And as we kind of unravel the different threads we're following today, we hope that by the end of the conversation, you are able to feel at least the idea of what gravity is, and even more significantly, feel it as a reality within yourself. Yeah. So that's a part of what we mean by gravity. What we see in it, what we've learned through it, actually extends back to, what is this, 2022? When we received, I guess I received a message from one of my all-time favorite stones. Actually, it's here. It's Heliodor. See if I can grab it without knocking anything over. I don't know if the phone will focus on this.
Yeah, I think it did.
No, we tried. It's an awesome stone. It's one of my favorites. This Heliodor. It's a rare stone. I met with this stone. When was this? Do you remember offhand what the month was?
August.
It was August of 2022. Really?
Yeah.
August 8th of 2022?
No, it wasn't August 8th, but it was the 8th month.
Yeah, okay.
I believe August it was 24th. August 24th of 2022.
Not like that really matters, but the way it matters is to show you how long ago this was. I received this communication from this stone, which, for those of you who have been following along, you already know that was something I already felt really kind of insecure about. It felt a little bit on the edge of crazy to me that I was talking with rocks. But I had opened to receive, and it was delivering. The problem for me is that what it was delivering so far exceeded my own comfort zones. It was so far into the stratosphere of ideas that I actually failed at the time to qualify it as valid. I actually, even in the notes of my transcript, like actively invalidated it, going like, this can't be real.
Yeah.
You know, of course, what we find often is that our initial attempts to disqualify something are a result of an underlying insecurity that has nothing to do with the truth, nothing to do with who we are, and nothing to do with how important that message may be. And so, of course, over time, what we received has only continued to grow in us like a seed. So that now, it was a little over a year ago, Laura was just like bearing down on this message in particular, studying it daily, bringing it to my attention. And I just kept pushing away like, I don't know, babe. Now, of course, it's central to our experience because at some point along the way, you decide, why am I hiding from such a magnificent message? Like, why would I hide from something so large? So you quit that. We've quit that. And what we're going to read to you now, word for word, is that message that I was given all that time ago. If for you, it also feels a little bit up there, don't worry. It'll stick. You know, it's not going to stop returning to you in one way or another. Yeah. So our responsibility today is to deliver it in explicit form so that seed can be planted. In many of you, that seed will instantly ignite something. You'll get it. If it doesn't take in that way, don't worry. It's okay. We're not here for your agreement. You're not required or obligated to agree with what we say. We can share what we know. So this is a part of what we now know, even though initially it was a tough pill to swallow. Yeah. So let's kind of read it from the top. How do you want to read this?
Well, if you want to read half, and I'll read half.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay.
Do you want to read the first half or the second half?
Sure, I'll read the first half.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. You are a great shining sun. You are a center of gravity. Impact is held in the light. Sit still and watch the whole world dance in response to you. Sit still and watch the whole world orbit in response to your light.
It goes on to say, stillness. Sit still. You are so large. Trust the impact of your light. Trust the impact of your presence. Stop working so hard to be something special. Stop reaching for what you need. Let what you need introduce itself to you. Let yourself be who you are. You need more space than you've given yourself until now. Release yourself from all bonds. Open so light can pour through.
Dang.
Yeah, I added a note in the midst of this. I'll read that to you verbatim as well. I said, I am recognizing a hint of frustration, concerned that this voice is not the voice of this stone. At the time, I was worried that I was making it up. Ironically, the concern that I was making that up is the very thing that confirms that I wasn't. I couldn't have made that up because I wasn't prepared to hear it.
Yeah.
You are a great and shining sun. This was a message not only to me, but to each of us.
Yes.
This is what the angel of gravity is. Believe it or not, it is a great and shining sun. Without going too far into what's coming tomorrow, we meet the angel of impact tomorrow. It's really something to consider the relationship between gravity and impact. This initial message connected those dots.
Yeah.
You are a center of gravity. Impact is held in the light. We think impact is going to be held in anything but the light. There's a reason that love and light people are made fun of, frankly. It's because it feels impractical.
Right.
Like there's no ground. It couldn't possibly have impact because you're walking around with one of your eyes squeezed shut. Personally, I wouldn't refer to myself as a love and light person. I'm interested in the truth.
Right.
Truth, interestingly enough, is a 52. It's the exact frequency of this day's signature.
Yeah.
So call it what you will, but we've been told over and over again that truth and light are synonymous, that beauty is synonymous with truth, that love and power are all synonymous with truth. Love and light are equal to truth. They are equal to power. These are the things that underlie our experience. The word God and the word goodness, actually the word God and the word good, are both the exact same frequency. Goodness is God. It's what underlies this experience. These things are all connected as what we might refer to as a web of like interrelationships, but basically that's a word web. They're the same thing.
Yeah.
It's gravity. It's the base of our experience. It's the densest possible thing there is because it's infinity itself. It contains everything. in our physical reality, we meet this scientific concept of a black hole. This idea of a singularity where gravity becomes so complete that there's no escaping the force field of this black hole.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's a terrifying concept to most. What we see in this is quite different. What we would see is gravity as equal to truth or love. Mm-hmm. I personally believe love with a capital L to be the actual force of gravity. Mm-hmm. This idea that love is calling everything back to itself, that there is this receptive nature, that there is this unavoidable nature to the way in which love moves. A black hole is a return to self. Each of us, we've actually been told by the angels or a stone, hard to recall at this point, that there is a black hole, so to speak, in each one of us. Mm-hmm. and that each of us is essentially recalling to ourselves everything that is equal to or resonant with the frequency of ourselves. So whatever it is that Timothy most enjoys, most needs, all of this is being regathered to me by virtue of my existence. Mm-hmm. That black hole, so to speak, of Timothy it is gravity itself. Mm-hmm. It's magnetic, and same for Laura, and same for you, and it's unique to each one of us in the same ways that everything we've discussed up until this point is unique. But the amazing thing about a black hole is, if we were to consider what the other side of a black hole might look like, it's that you have a dual funnel. You have this black hole at the center, and everything is moving toward the black hole. And then you've got this figure eight movement, right? Mm-hmm. The 8, where everything that was condensed into this infinite density, this infinite moment of gravity, then explodes out the other side as a white hole or a sun. Mm-hmm. So you have the same exact mechanism of magnetism and radiance, of receptivity and expression that we see playing out over and over again in nature and in these day signatures. So gravity is about condensing everything to a single point at the center of you and relaxing so completely in the knowledge that when you do this, the other side of that action is explosive impact. Yeah. Tomorrow we meet impact. Mm-hmm. This is a movement. The movement produces a great and shining sun named Laura, named Timothy, named you. Do you see? When we permit ourselves to walk the pathway of repose, we are recognizing the incalculable impact and significance of this perfect moment that each one of us occupies simply by virtue of existing. Mm-hmm. And we are choosing to permit that to do what it does, to explode out of us in a totally authentic, totally original way. Yeah. That produces an impact that cannot be measured. The original impact is receptive, because when you relax, everything happens. Mm-hmm. The kingdom takes care of itself. Your life takes care of itself. There's nothing for you to do but to trust yourself into that center of intelligence, and to trust yourself into its rhythm, its timing, knowing that when it's time to move, you will, because it will move you.
Yes.
Right? The impact is not a result of your activity. It's a result of your decision-making and your willingness to surrender that decision-making to a greater intelligence. Mm-hmm. This is why we often say the best choice is a no-choice choice, because when you realize how completely this simple choice serves you, why wouldn't you? Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't you surrender?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, we've been talking about this pathway of desire.
Yeah.
And how the desires are meant to, we're meant to live out our desires. What we're seeing here is that even in these moments where we're allowing ourselves to be still, we're choosing to trust that those desires mm-hmm. are assured, that those desires are promised to us. So there is nothing that we need to do to make those mm-hmm. happen. Mm-mm. Unless it's an authentic movement. If we are in that moment of stillness because it's authentic, that is exactly where you need to be, so that life can deliver that on that promise. So it's part of that understanding that just because we have a desire and we're not taking action on it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen.
Mm-mm.
It's promised.
Yep.
This is what the angel of promise is telling us, that if we have a true desire, it's a pure guarantee.
Yes, it's all built in.
And part of that is knowing that there's going to be this moment where you have to gather to yourself, all of you, so that life can take care of all of the other details that need to make it happen. Everything will be orchestrated.
Yes.
And you'll know what to do when you need to do it. You'll know what you need to know when you need to know it.
Yes. Get into your own seat with your own sheet music and your own instrument. Mm-hmm. It's the one thing you've got to do. It's the one thing we have failed to do. This connection between the angel of gravity and the angel of promise, the pathway of repose and the pathway of desire, that was brilliantly woven, babe. Very necessary. Mm-hmm. That dot needed to be connected. This is not inactivity. This is choosing to act in a certain way. And it's choosing to entrust your actions, your behaviors, your decisions, your ideas to a larger source of knowledge than your own, little pea brain can cook up. Mm-hmm. We are not meant to understand the infinite movements and factors involved in any single moment. It's impossible. It is not possible to understand it by any means. Scientists, mathematicians, cosmologists, all of these attempts to understand really any part of our experience, frankly, there is a degree of arrogance inherent to that. We will not understand everything. We cannot even understand the smallest portion of infinity. No, we're not here to sort that out. We're here to enjoy the effect. Mm-hmm. We're here to become a part of the movement and to marvel at everything that happens when we do that. Mm-hmm. That's what we're here for. The image that comes to my mind, you've heard this before, I apologize, but maybe they have, is and now we're going to just connect the dots between the two angels like you did.
Yeah.
So you have a desire for something on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
You place an order on Amazon. You know at this point that it's going to be here tomorrow or the next day, if not the same day. It's real quick. You place the order online, you know the item is coming. Pretty straightforward at this point. No one's very concerned that it will be lost in transit. But if you place that order out of sheer excitement and you wait for a couple of hours and then you start to get worried and you start to get impatient and you start to wonder whether maybe perhaps Amazon forgot about you and maybe they stole your money, or maybe it's out there on a truck but they don't know where you live. You just get all these different ideas starting to cloud your clear understanding that everything you've ever ordered before arrived right on time. You may get up out of repose and start driving around the neighborhood and the town and the state looking for the Amazon truck, looking for your package. The irony is, of course, when that package arrives at your doorstep, just like it always has, and just like you knew it was going to do, no one's home to receive it. Mm-hmm. That's the same thing that we embody, unfortunately, in our attempts to strategize, to understand, to make sense of something that is so far beyond us. The promise is, if you will just relax and let life handle it, you are going to find that everything you are authentically drawn to marvelously weaves itself into your experience. The package will always arrive, and it will always arrive on time. Mm-hmm. You don't need to worry about how, and you don't need to worry about when. You just need to make sure that when it comes, you're where you belong.
Yes. When
that conductor says go, your instrument is in hand and you're ready to play. That's what we're talking about. This is the angel of gravity meeting the angel of promise. Mm-hmm. There is nothing for you to do but sit and watch the world respond to you. Your world respond to you. We talked a little bit about this yesterday. I want to see if I can connect to it again.
Okay.
This idea that your world responds to you. It is not the same as saying that you get to be lazy.
Right.
And everything is just kind of like handed to you on a silver platter, so to speak. It's not equal to laziness, and it's not equal to effort. It's something else. It's a third option. The world responds to you means that you are actually completely responsible for what that world is responding to. The center of gravity is you and all of your beliefs about yourself, all of your beliefs about life. So whatever that center of gravity is doing, whatever stories you are telling, your world responds to. If your stories are, woe is me, who am I am but a worm. If your story is rooted in guilt, shame, fear, insecurity, discomfort, you're going to have a world that responds to that. Because life is fully affirmative. It always agrees with you. That's the promise. That's what it means for the world to respond to you. So you can be a great shining sun who is fully aware of its own magnificence and its own significance, who has taken into itself all of the most beautiful ideas and produced a center of gravity that speaks that language, in which case your world produces everything resonant with that. What I'm trying to say is that this idea of moving into repose is actually a reclamation of complete responsibility. It's complete autonomy, which is the freedom you're looking for. But along with that freedom comes complete personal responsibility. There is no one else to blame. If the package comes late, it's not because it's not on time. It's because you've held it apart from yourself in one way or another, or you're not at home to receive it. So our real responsibility here, what this is calling for, is a willingness to cultivate an inner world that aligns with the desires that we each have, that aligns with the underlying truth of what we're learning, that aligns with the goodness that life is, that aligns with ideas of perfection rather than breakdown, abundance rather than limitation, infinity rather than all of these limited contexts we tend to dream up as a result of our training. We begin to train something new. We replace a very unhelpful, unsustainable, undesirable, frankly, core of ideas with all new ones, understanding that those are the very thing our world responds to. Right?
Yep.
Everything you most deserve is waiting. But you have to realize you deserve it before there's an opportunity for that world of opportunity and relationships and income and everything you're seeking to finally arrive at your doorstep.
Yeah, I mean, that is a key point, is that what tends to get us real busy trying to make something happen is because we feel like we need to earn it. If we are in an understanding of our own deservingness, then it can be delivered and you can receive it.
We become available to it.
Yes, we become available to it.
Our previous way is pretty goofy. It's very much like knowing what you want on Amazon, placing your order, paying for it, but leaving the mailing address empty. Because who am I to receive the thing I just said I wanted? Who am I to receive the thing that I just called in? It makes no sense. Of course you want that for a reason. Of course it's not random. Of course you're meant to have the thing you just called to yourself. Fill in the blanks. Of course you're worthy. And of course you need to be home in order to receive it. So there's something really empowering here, but it takes a great deal of personal responsibility to really own up to those ideas that are no longer serving you so that you can release them and replace them with ones that do. All of this leads us to the story about the embodiment. It took us all morning to find repose.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it was hours of seeking the embodiment and failing to find a word that really landed. We had a few that were in play, but none of them felt right. And ultimately we had to give up. We read the sheet music, so to speak. We decided to move on. If we hover on this note too long, everyone's going to be too far ahead of us. We decided to let it go. That's very difficult to do when you feel that you're invested in something meaningful and you're this close to the end. To surrender at that point is like, it's pretty demoralizing. But we chose to do it on purpose. And because we chose to do it, it wasn't as demoralizing as it would have otherwise been. It was a part of the plan, and we knew that. We made that decision together. So I went outside to mow the lawn. I just completely took our hands off the subject. Obviously, we're not in conversation while I'm mowing the lawn. So even that, we took a step back and just relaxed. The need to know, the need to get this particular activity done, the need to see it to completion, we just put it on pause. And as I'm mowing the lawn, without even trying to, the wheels are turning. Those gears are turning even when I'm trying to turn them off by mowing the lawn. The point is, I was supposed to be mowing the lawn. I was supposed to have surrendered. I was supposed to have embodied that very idea that this day calls for, the idea of repose. I needed to just relax on the subject and move into the next logical step of the day. And so I'm mowing the lawn, and I can begin to see this idea of a black hole and a supernova like we met the other day. That was another embodiment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm seeing in my mind's eye what that looks like. And then the words came, the Almighty. And I was like, that doesn't work. The embodiment of, And I just let it simmer,
Mm-hmm.
and it would not go away. I eventually had to stop mowing, mid-project, and pitch it to my wife. And even then, we could both sense that it was correct.
Yeah.
And we were like, yeah, but
Wow. That's bold.
Bold. Yeah. Large. Far, far larger than we had been considering. And this morning, even when we were talking about it, you said something like, we had failed to dream big enough.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
Right.
That's what was happening. We had, without knowing it, been operating within a self-limiting container of ideas.
That precluded even the possibility of it being the Almighty.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So in the same way that it took time to release my insecurity about everything that Heliodor was telling me and finally accept the fact that, each of us literally is functioning exactly like any other logos, any other God, any other son. Those are big words to use. Mm-hmm. That takes time to really wrap your brain around. But it's the truth. Yeah. And this was too. So the embodiment of the Almighty it's this. What does the Almighty have to go chase after? What pressures exert themselves on God? None. To embody the Almighty is to know absolutely that everything that needs to happen will, and that it will happen right on time. It is to know absolutely that everything is orchestrated to your benefit, flawlessly, without effort. It is to know that there is nothing to worry over. In fact, the idea of worry ceases to exist altogether. Mm-hmm. The idea of limitation ceases to exist. What you begin to realize as the Almighty is that there is a fundamental truth which is in fact the only reality. And it may be surrounded by a storm of other ideas and opinions and misconceptions, and those things mean nothing to that core. In the same way that a sky full of asteroids means nothing to the sun. They cannot penetrate the light that is the light, the heat, the presence, the gravity of that sun. Yeah. That which is Almighty cannot be moved. It is impenetrable. That's what this is embodying. And believe it or not, that's what we actively choose to embody when in a world of other things that we could trick ourselves into thinking need to happen, we decide to just pause and be and enjoy one another and enjoy our beverage and enjoy the world in front of us. It seems counterproductive, except it is communicating something to life which could not be more productive. It's saying, I don't need to control this. You've got it. Thank you. I love you. Remember that prayer of amazement? Mm-hmm. That's what regal repose is doing. It's taking a step back and saying, this is so good. Yeah. So good it must be true. Mm-hmm. Thank you. I love you. Everything happens for me. It knows this not because it is arrogant. It knows this because it is awake, aware. It sees what's happening.
Wow.
Yeah. I need to pause. We're pretty far in. We're about done. But there is something on the edge of my memory.
Yeah.
Yes. And it was a part of this day.
Okay. What did it have to do with?
Gravity, the sun, sit and watch.
Was it about the angel promise?
If it doesn't show up, then it's not meant to happen today.
Yeah.
But it felt like a practical addition, and I could sense it. And now it appears to have... It's connecting to synergy and fusion.
Oh,
got it.
Fusion.
The sun. Okay. So here's the final tie-in. We connect to the wand virtue of synergy. We mentioned it earlier, but how does it connect to all of this? This is how. When you surrender yourself to that larger story, to your own life, to these natural desires which have always been a part of you and are very clearly at this point calling you forward into a larger life. When you submit yourself or surrender yourself to that, you merge with it. In the same way that our union produces something greater than the sum of its parts, something which has a far more significant impact than anything I could have ever achieved on my own, anything Laura could have ever achieved on her own. This us entity that exists now as a result of our union is more than anything either of us has ever been or ever could have been apart. That's on purpose. That thing includes us, but also extends beyond us in terms of its impact, in terms of its quality. There's a reason these videos were never being recorded by her or myself until now. 36 years in for me. And it never happened, even though I knew it was supposed to happen. I knew I was supposed to be on video. I knew I was supposed to be speaking. But that explosion of expression never had a chance until the environment that supported it had come online, so to speak. So synergy is about allowing the union of two things to explode into a third thing, to become something more. That's what we refer to as the supernova. The point of this is to say we're just an example. We're just an embodiment of that, a personification of that idea. But this is also true on every subject of your life, on everything you desire. When you give yourself wholly, in any direction, you become one with the movement in that direction. And it doesn't matter what the actual subject may be. It could be an item. It could be a career. It could be a relationship. It doesn't matter what it is. When you fuse with that thing, the result of that fusion is larger than that thing on its own or you without that thing. You are meant to have the things you desire, to experience the things you desire. Those desires are actually seeking to create light in the same way that fusion creates light in a sun. So when we allow this to happen and we allow that black hole, that gravity within us to call the highest and the best into our experience in just the way it was built to do, all of that becomes such a dense part of who we are that it cannot help but explode out the other side into the light of this great shining sun we're referring to as something even more than what you were a moment before. This is how we continue to grow. This is how we continue to expand. This is how life reproduces itself over and over again. It's through relationship. It's through fusion, through merging, through synergy. This only works when we cooperate with that life, cooperate with those things that are calling to us. That's the sin in synergy, right? So that's the piece. I'm really happy I was allowed to remember that.
Yeah.
Would you add anything to it?
No, you tied it up with a bow.
I do love tying things up with a bow. We're very excited about this day. We're very excited about tomorrow. We have not mentioned, but would like to, that today is personal vortex for Laura.
Yes, it is. So 52 is my Phoenix frequency, which is one of the 6 frequencies that you will find in the frequency portal.
Talk about fire or a sun. Talk about explosive. The Phoenix frequency
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I love all the frequencies, but this is definitely a personal favorite.
Yeah, it is. It's a rebirth kind of energy. It's very cool.
Came as a complete surprise to us. It is a part of the signature edition of the Frequency Portal, which is available now. Another one of these experiences that there's really no excuse for you not to have experienced. If you're excited by what you're hearing here, seeing here, feeling here day after day, you ought to know your Phoenix frequency by now.
Yeah.
So don't hesitate to reach out to us either with questions or to request to order. It's all available on the website as well. The Forgotten Sense, the Frequency Portal, these are gifts that we've been given the opportunity to prepare for you. We want to. We consider it such a powerful privilege. So take advantage of that, and then kick back and repose and just gobble it all up, all the good stuff that we are so happy to deliver in every way we possibly can. This has been an awesome day. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Give yourself permission to move into regal repose as inspired. See what that feels like. Play with us. Play with your own life and watch what happens when you do. Watch what happens when you are waiting at home for those deliveries to show up, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And it's larger than you thought.
Yes.
And it produces more than any of your effort ever could have.
Yes.
So let's get into our seats, gather our instruments, and start playing some music. Yeah. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow. It's going to be awesome. Until then, bye for now.
Bye.